I want to thank Stephanie Bailey and the Blue Outpost Texas Democrats organization for the work that you all are putting into the most important series of elections of our lifetimes, highlighting these critically important state house races, where for the first time in 20 years we have a chance to win a majority in the state legislature, is critical not only for getting back control of our state government and dismantling the infrastructure of voter suppression and voter intimidation and moving forward on the big things that we want to do for our fellow Texans. But it's also going to help us up ballot, whether they are the congressional races that we want to hold on to Democratic seats or the congressional races where we can flip a Republican seat into Democratic control, or defeating John Cornyn, Donald Trump's single greatest enabler in the United States Senate, and sending in his place MJ Hagar, who will represent us in a way that we can be proud of. Or this, Texas has a chance for the first time in 44 years, since 1976, to send our electoral college votes to the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden, and defeat Donald Trump, and thereby turn the page on Trumpism and begin the next necessary new chapter for this state and for our country. Texas has the chance to come through big time for America, and that fight is being led by these courageous state house candidates who are doing everything they can at this critical moment of truth. Thank you for highlighting them. Thank you for elevating the importance of these races. And thank you for the work that you're doing between now and November 3rd.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back. It's Mike Collier here. I was the 2018 candidate for Texas Lieutenant Governor, not on the ballot, still in the fight. And I want to welcome you to another installment of the Blue Outpost Democrats Candidate Forum to flip the Texas House. First of all, thank you so much to my friend Beto, who also is still in the fight. He did so much for us in 18, and we're just delighted that he's still on it. So since we last met, a lot has happened. Heartbreaking. Justice Ginsburg has passed away. And you might be inclined to think that the most important thing that we have in front of us is dealing with the presidential contest. But I have to tell you, knowing politics as I've learned, what really matters is all the candidates. And you're going to hear from some fabulous candidates today who are focused on flipping the Texas House, which can be done and must be done. And I need you to contribute to them, because every voter that they turn out to the polls is not only a vote for them and for flipping the House, which means public education and healthcare and gerrymandering and all the things that we need to do, but it's also a vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because we need to get people to the polls, every single Democrat. You know, they say, or have said, that Texas is a red state. I can assure you, Texas is not a red state. Texas is a non-voting state as it relates to Democrats, but that is changing, and it is changing rapidly. So you're going to hear from some fine candidates. It's a very exciting time to be in Texas. Many of the folks that are listening to this are not in Texas, and we welcome you, and we're delighted to have you working with us, because the whole country knows that as soon as Texas becomes a competitive state, then politics in America changes dramatically. That's why these races are so important. And I must tell you that I am so proud of the candidates that are running for the Texas House. And you're going to meet three wonderful candidates. I know them personally. They will represent us so well. They need to be elected, and they need your help. And that takes money. And I urge you, please be as generous as you can. Do you know how many days we have left? I'm an accountant. I happen to know. 23 days until early voting, 44 days until election. That's going to go by so fast. And these candidates need your help. So thank you so much for coming. What I want to do now is thank our sponsors for this program, and I'm going to read them off. We're going to take it from the top. Our sponsors. Here we go. 312th Family District Court Judge Clinton Chip Wells. 270th Civil District Court Judge Deidre Davis. Thank you all. Our club sponsors. The Bayou Blue Democrats, Meyerland Area Democrats, Texas Democratic Women Harris County Chapter, Houston Stonewall Young Democrats, Southwest Democrats, Cy-Fair Area Democrats, Humble Area Democrats, Democratic Club of the Woodlands, Energy and Environmental Democrats, the Road Women, Cypress Tomball Democrats, Kingwood Area Democrats, that's where I'm coming to you from, and the Spring Democratic Club. We have our royal sponsors, former County Clerk, Dr. Diane Troutman, Carl Jones, and Humble Area Democrats President John Cotter. Thank you so much. Our Sapphire sponsors: Texas Senate District 3 Committeewoman Shirley Layton, Texas Senate District 7 Democrats, Attorney Mark Whitehead. Thank you so much. And finally, our organization sponsors: Powered by the People, Harris County Democratic Party, Flip the Texas House, Sisters United Alliance, Swing Left Texas, Indivisible Houston, and Blue Action Democrats. You can see the energy, you can see the enthusiasm. These folks are involved in helping us because they are committed to flipping the Texas House, and so am I, and so are you, and particularly so are the candidates that you're about to meet. And I want to say one last thing. Having put my neck out there and run for office, I can tell you that it's frightening, and it's work, and it's wonderful, but they deserve a rich thank you from all of us for doing this. So for the candidates you're going to meet tonight, thank you so much to you all, and we're here for you, and let's win this. And now I want to turn it over to the moderators for the rest of the evening, my good friends, Jaime Rodriguez and Carly Moser.
Hey, Mike.
Hey,
Carly.
thank
Good
you
to see
so much for such a great introduction.
Well, I'm just excited to be part of this.
Well, and we all know, and for those of you from out of the state who may not know, Mike is one of these people to watch in politics. So you'll be seeing a lot more from him after November. But right now, we're focused on this November and what the task
Fighting for November.
So,
Fighting for November. Yes, sir.
excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, Mike. We'll see you again Tuesday.
All right. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Carly, are you ready for a good show?
I'm as ready as I can ever be. We have 3 amazing candidates tonight. I'm very, 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 very excited to have them all. So are you ready to get started? Shall I introduce?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce them.
All right. Well, we have Miss Natalie Hurtado. We have Joanna Cadnack. And we have Elisa Simmons.
Great.
Welcome, ladies. So glad to have you.
Howdy, all of you. You can take yourselves off a speaker because y'all are going to be coming back and forth for a little bit here. Yeah.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey there.
So glad to have you.
Good to see you, Jaime and Carly.
Great, great. So let me just tell you how the show is going to go, and that way the audience can hear. For those of you who are new to the show, it's pretty straightforward. We have a standard format. It starts with the candidates giving us each a 1-minute introduction about themselves. And remember, candidates, in that 1 minute, make sure to say your website name. You've got a captive audience here right now. They're on the web. They're ready to check you out. So give them your website and also tell them a little bit about where your district is in Texas. Give people a sense of where you are in Texas. And then after that 1-minute introduction, we're going to have what's called a lightning round. And in the lightning round, Carly and I have a few questions just to get to know you. If you can just answer in 1 or 2 words, that would be the best way to do it. So the first thing that comes to your mind and go from there. We'll get through that pretty fast, and then we'll get to a section called philosophical questions. The philosophical questions are the kinds of questions that we should be able to ask politicians of any stripe, anywhere, and they will probably have a thoughtful response about it. These are the kinds of things that you lay at night, waking up for years and years thinking about if you ever wanted to go into politics. So we'll give you 1 minute to answer those types of questions. Once we've gotten through the philosophical questions, then we will go to the issues of the day. And the issues of the day change all the time. Right now we have a good set that we're going to get through. At the end of the issues, then we're going to give you 1 minute to talk about your district specifically. So tell us, do you have the biggest yard of ball of yarn, or what's big and important about your district? So tell us all about it at the end of the hour. And at the end of the hour, at 8 o'clock, you, the audience, you get to actually ask your questions. So all along, if you'll go to Facebook to what is it, Blue Outpost TX Democrats, Blue Outpost TX Democrats. And you can find it on Twitter, and YouTube, and Facebook. So any one of those, if you'll go there, we have a team of people that are actually watching those, and they're going to be sending Carly and I the questions. And so at 8 o'clock, your questions will be asked. And at the very end of all of that, you'll have a closing statement, and that'll be the show. And I'll tell you, it's going to go by very fast. So you're not even going to feel it by the end of it. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready if y'all are ready. All right, we're going to start our introductions in numerical order by district. So we will start with the wonderful Elisa Simmons for Texas HD 94.
Thank you, which is in Arlington, Texas. So it encompasses about 45% of Arlington. I am a sixth-generation Texan, born and raised in Austin, Texas. My family, my dad's side of the family, was one of the first Black families, or the first Black family to settle in Pflugerville, Texas. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with Pflugerville, Texas. But I have lived here in Arlington for 35 years, and most of that time in the district. I have two sons, young adult sons. They are on their own, thank goodness, doing very well. I have my oldest son lives in Austin and works for a corporation there as a project manager. The second son is first lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, so he's stationed in Okinawa right now. So that's and they went to school in this district. I was an active room mom, PTA mom, booster club, basketball, baseball, football, orchestra booster club from kindergarten on to senior year. So I've just been super engaged and involved in the community. I took my volunteerism to different levels, school district level, the city, and the county level. Right now, I am president of the NAACP in Arlington, and I am a big community problem solver. And so I wanted to take my skills and to Austin and see if I can help more Texans.
Thank you so much, Elisa. That was great. Next up, we have Joanna Katanak for HD 108.
Well, thank you all so much for having me. Yes, my name is Joanna Ruth Katanak. I think it's a good day to honor all of those women who have the name of Ruth, as we honor and continue to honor Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I am the Democratic nominee for State House District 108, which is in Dallas. It is the downtown Dallas area. East Dallas incorporates all of the Park cities and different neighborhoods around, mostly the 75 corridor. I am a second-time candidate. This is a district that I ran for in 2018, and we lost by just 4 votes per precinct. So when we talk about every vote counting, it really matters. And literally just 4 minutes before I got on air, we just got our golf cart. Because we need to get to doors quicker and faster and safely, and that's what we're trying to do at House District 108. I am also, as you can see, Queen of the Orange Army. That is our campaign color. It is a nod to Whataburger or OSU or Tennessee or whatever college you may be from, but we're happy to be here and happy to answer your questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That was great. And finally, last but certainly not least, Natalie Hurtado for Texas HD 126.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Natalie Hurtado, running for House District 126. Those who don't know where it's at, we're in Northwest Harris County. I'd like to reference it by the Beltway 249 area, and also one of the top targeted seats come this cycle. I too ran in 2018, was told that we had no chance of ever flipping this seat. It's a Republican stronghold, forget about it. And so, you know, we made the case. We went out knocking on doors, talking to voters, and with Bethel on the top of the ticket, we managed to bring what used to be either a Democrat not running in the seat or losing by over 20 percentage points down to a single digit. I am a native Texan, native Houstonian, mother to 3 beautiful girls, wife to an Air Force veteran. And it's just an honor to be here to answer whatever questions you throw at us and just to be part of this amazing process and to, you know, really, I look forward to flipping this district, flipping this state, and really taking back this nation as a whole. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you tonight.
Natalie, thank you so much. That's wonderful. And before we get started, we want to remind you all to join us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 7 o'clock. This coming Tuesday, we have some very, very special guests, some elected officials that are incredibly inspiring, and we hope you'll join us as they join our fight with Blue Outpost TX. Jaime?
Okay, so now we're going to get to the lightning round. And Joanna, we'll start with you. We'll just keep going in counterclockwise order from now on. So, Joanna, who is your opponent?
I actually have two opponents, Republican Morgan Meyer and a Libertarian named Ed Rankin.
Okay, Natalie?
Sam Harless.
And Alyssa?
She's on mute.
Alyssa, or you're on mute.
There you go.
Tony Tinderholt.
Tommy Tinderhold?
Tony Tinderholt.
Tony, okay. Very good, very good.
Great. Natalie, how long have you lived in your district?
5 years as of August.
Great. Elisa, how long have you lived in your district?
About 30 years.
All right. And Joanna?
About 10.
Alyssa, have you ever been elected to any office as an adult?
I have not.
Joanna?
Nope.
And Natalie?
Nope.
All right, Joanna, our next question is, have you ever run for this position before? Which I think you answered previously.
Yes, I did. I happened to be the Democratic nominee last time. So this is the same seat I'm running for again, against the same incumbent as well.
Thank you. Natalie, same question.
Yes, I have.
And Elisa, have you ever run for this position before?
No.
All right. Jaime?
Okay, so this is a question that Carly usually asks, but I guess the order came out different tonight. Next spring, President Biden comes to your district, and he's visiting, and he wants you to take him to lunch. Where do you take him to lunch? And I think it's Alyssa up next. Is that where we ended?
Yes. So, Jamaica Gates. It is a Jamaican restaurant in Arlington, in the district, that's super popular. It's a small business, and so that is where I would take him. It offers jazz entertainment, and so I think that's where I would take Vice President Biden and Senator Harris.
I love that. That's really
Okay, Joanna?
The Garden Cafe in East Dallas, it's a neighborhood staple. Like so many small businesses, it struggled and has struggled to keep its doors open. And I think it's a way to sort of pay back an homage to the neighborhood. And it literally is a garden and a cafe put together in the middle of Dallas.
And Natalie?
Lunitas to go. It's an amazing place for empanadas and amazing chimichurri sauce. So that's where I take them.
amazing. I love
No
that.
barbecue tonight, Carly. No barbecue tonight.
We always talk about how almost every time the answer is either barbecue or Mexican food, because that's such a staple. Elisa, I've been to that restaurant. You are right. It is amazing. That is the best answer. And now I want to go there after COVID. Joanna, who is your political hero?
I think it's, kind of easy to say Ann Richards, of course she is, but mine has always been Molly Ivins. I'm a former reporter and was a columnist in college while she was still alive. So I didn't know how to be a liberal columnist. I was the only one at Baylor, and I would take Molly Ivins' columns, read them, and then type my own columns for the Baylor Lariat. So always honor to her.
That's the first Molly Ivins we've got. I love it. Natalie, same.
So mine is Hillary Clinton. I think for obvious reasons. And so, yeah, she's my woman.
Love it. And Elisa?
So I have two, but I'll give you one. Shirley Chisholm. She was the first Black woman to run for president, and she is and always was unbought and unbossed.
Absolutely. She was a boss for all of us. I love that. Thank you.
So Natalie, one of the big differences between the parties right now, which it didn't used to be this way, but right now it seems to be that one party doesn't really believe in reading very much, doesn't care about the facts, all of that. But we're Democrats. So tell us, what are you recommending people be reading right now?
So Woodward's book, I actually just started it. I'm on chapter 4 right now. It's a good read. It's a scary read, to be honest with you. But that's what I recommend, just to get to know your president. Although we know, who he is already, just seeing it in words from an author like Woodward just keeps, speaks volumes. So that's what I recommend right now.
And Alyssa?
So I don't have a recommendation for others. I can tell you what I've been reading off and on when I find time. There's no time, but it's Joker 1, and it's a book about a Marine officer's platoon. And my son gave it to me because after he graduated SMU, had a great job, and decided to go to OCS and become a Marine officer, I kept saying, why? And so he said, read this book. So.
Excellent. And Joanna?
God Save Texas by Texas's own Lawrence Wright. He's based out of Austin. He used to live in this district, but it's an excellent read if you want to understand how Texas got to be this mess. Sometimes I have to put it down sometimes because it kind of makes me mad, but I do pick it up so I can understand the Texas history and the legislative history of the state.
Great.
Thank you, Elisa. And I'm remiss because I did not say earlier, thank you and your family for your service. We really do appreciate you, and all of you that have service members in your family or are service members yourself. We honor you and we thank you for your service. Thank you so much. Now to the business of things. We are asking every viewer to donate $17 to these candidates at the very least in honor of the 17 most flippable Texas House seats. 2021 means redistricting in Texas, and in order to get fair and equitable districts, we need great, amazing candidates like these amazing women. So please donate throughout the evening, $17, or as one of their fellow candidates, Eliz Markowitz, says, $17 or $17,000. And sign up on their website, which will be scrolling throughout the evening, for shifts to phone bank, text bank, do phone lit drops like Joanna Kattenag just got her fantastic golf cart ready to go to do lit drops, or do postcards for them, write them and help them mail them. Every opportunity and every voter that you're able to help reach out to helps get them elected to the State House. Thank you so much. And don't forget to put your questions in the comments either on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and we will ask them in the last half hour. So now I think we're going to move on to our state questions, our state issue. No, I'm sorry, the philosophical portion of our evening. So we're going to ask some very interesting philosophical questions. And I think Jaime explains this really well. So Jaime?
Well, you have to remember that a lot of times we elect officials because of some issue of the day, the important thing that's going on that day, and they can speak to that. But 5 or 6 years down the road, we realize we don't really agree with most of the things that this particular candidate agrees with, because we were with them on that one issue, but that was it. And so what we want to know is a little bit more about you and how you think. So remember, what you answer is not really as important as how you got to that answer. That's what we want to listen for when we hear you answer these questions. How are you coming up with these answers? And so you're going to get 1 minute to answer each of these types of questions. And we'll go with the first one. And I think it was Alyssa that was up next. Was that correct? So Alyssa, what is the responsibility of professional journalists and online activists? What responsibilities do they have?
I am a former journalist, and I'm old. I've been around for a while, and so I was a journalist when objectivity was what we were taught, and so the responsibility of journalists is to deliver the news and information as objective as possible, and same with online journalists, or I don't even know if they're considered formal journalists. But what's important is there's so much opinion in what's delivered today with regard to news and information. So it's important for individuals, consumers of news, to vet the news that they receive. So I'll take the responsibility off of journalists and put it on consumers to vet the information they receive, because some of it is so tainted, and it leans one way or the other.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. 1 minute.
So, like Elisa, I am a former reporter. I was for many years. I've been a journalism professor now for 11 years. So kind of right up my alley. But this is a question that I ask all of my students at the very beginning. But really the question is, what is news? And right now I'm actually having to give lectures on what is propaganda, because that is now what you think is news. That is propaganda. So the number one job is to seek truth and report it. That is the canons of journalism. That is the Society of Ethics. That is the first truth that we have, is to seek truth and report it. But like Alyssa said, we have to be good consumers of news and really watch what our media literacy is. Please understand that much of what you see on television is not news. These are not trained journalists. These are pretty people who can read a camera, and if I slide a desk in front of them, they make it sound like they're a career reporter. And if I give you news like this, or if I give you news like this, there is a difference. The difference is that I have a degree. The difference is that I have done this. The difference is that I respect the truth, and I know the truth, and I know what facts are, and I am accountable for that, and I work for legitimate agencies. That is the difference. And I think it's going to be a real difference when we get to the State House and we actually have so-called media outlets that can be on the House floor asking questions. They will be talking to a professor of journalism from now on, and I will not answer questions from people who simply like to write things down. Keyboard cowboys are not reporters. End of story, period.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alyssa, they're like,
Natalie, let's go to you.
Cool.
Let's push
All
through
right.
so we can get to a lot of questions.
I'm not a reporter, not a journalist, so I'm coming at this as the consumer. And for me, when I'm reading something, it is, is it fact? I look to those that are writing these articles when I'm reading, the New York Times, or what they portraying or what they're putting out there, just the facts, and not biased, not tainted to, have their opinions in there. And then when I think of an online activist, I think of those folks that, should be trying to garner support and organize for whatever issue that they're trying to rally around, not those that I'm looking for to give me the information to feel as though I can go out there and spread whatever they're saying. So that's just kind of how I see it from those perspectives.
those are all great answers. I love it. I'm very excited. I'm already very excited to get you guys elected to the Texas State House. Make sure to donate $17 to each of these candidates at the very least. Give an hour of your time texting, making phone calls, writing postcards. That's what's important. And join us on Tuesday. We will have Representative Symphonia Thompson, the incomparable Mrs. T from the Texas State House. We will have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Senator Royce West joining us on Tuesday. And we're very excited to help raise more money for all of these amazing Democrats. Make sure to ask your questions. Now we're going to move on to our next philosophical question, which is about taxes. So, Joanna, when do you know it's time to raise, lower, or leave taxes alone?
So this is a good question, and it's with the basis in the understanding that we all agree that taxes have a purpose in our society. This is how we get roads. This is how we get schools. This is how we keep libraries open. This is how we hire fire department people, police officers, etc. I think it's important to realize that the tax code, particularly in Texas, in some ways hasn't been touched in years. The last time we raised gas taxes, I was a graduating senior in high school. It's time. It's time to do that. But I can also tell you there's not a single homeowner here who would like their property taxes raised in Texas right now. So that's an easy one to say no to. But we also have a lot of corporations that are not paying their fair share. And sometimes when I look at what a tax question is, what is the purpose of this tax? What is the gain on this tax? When we're talking about really important matters like legalization of marijuana, which is what Texas should be talking about in the next legislative session, talk about an item that could be taxed to our benefit, And that's what I think about when we're sort of measuring what these taxes are.
Thank you so much. Same.
So I'm going to sound very redundant, but I mean, the same thing. It's a matter of question, are we funding our services that we should be providing to Texans when it comes to public education, when it comes to our healthcare, when it comes to infrastructure? And then the question becomes, is everyone paying their fair share? And a lot of times when you look at those corporate loopholes that exist, they're not. And so I agree, we should not be increasing homeowners' property taxes. We need to be closing loopholes and addressing that, and then using that money to fund those types of things before we think about, touching regular people like myself and our money. So those are my views on that.
Thank you, Natalie. And Alyssa? You're on mute. It's not 2020 without that phrase.
And you're on mute. You're on mute. We should take a serious look at closing outdated corporate tax loopholes and special interest tax breaks that cost the state billions. And I would echo what the previous two, Natalie and Joanna, has said. But that's what we need to do in order to fund public education long term. I oppose raising sales tax, like Republicans wanted to do last session. And I support increasing the homestead exemption. So,
I appreciate all of your answers. They're right on the money. Thank you.
So, Natalie, once the government has this money in place, how do you prioritize what services the government's going to spend that money on?
Sure. I think it's just a matter of knowing your community and what's going on in the state as a whole. I think the thing that speaks loud and clear right now is this pandemic that we're currently in. The fact that prior to this pandemic, we had so many folks that were on the uninsured rolls, not getting the healthcare that they need. And now we've had this pandemic and we've added more people on there. And the foolish, fact that we have yet to expand Medicaid. And that alone, missing out on federal money that could then divert state money to public education. But I guess to answer your question directly, it's about looking and seeing where we're at as a state. And for me, this pandemic is screaming loud and clear. And so addressing accessible and affordable healthcare for Texans is what is as key for me right now.
Alyssa?
Yeah, because of the pandemic, it's kind of soon to fully address that question. Before we get to taxes, we've got to understand our revenues and all of our revenue sources. And so the first place I would want to look very carefully when it comes to that revenue is the availability of federal dollars, whether they be emergency dollars because of disaster declarations due to hurricanes or COVID federal relief money. And that's going to come in $7 billion of it sits in our current state treasury right now. And how can we use those monies? So we've got to look at the revenue type and especially any federal funds.
And Joanna?
No, I think we also have to look at what the state's expenditures historically have been, and they have almost always been mostly on healthcare and public education. Those are really big expenses for the state of Texas. In a pandemic, those are extreme. They are extreme in need, and they really need support at this time. But I also think that we need to be thinking about what that means for job growth. When we see the 2021 budgets, it's not just what are shortfalls in the agencies that we have in healthcare and in public schools, but where is the tax base now? With so many people who've lost their jobs and their businesses, where is this income going to come in? And how are we going to be able to sustain and help these people who have fallen with no fault of their own into a pandemic that is going to have repercussions on this budget for decades? Please understand, this isn't one cycle that we're going to be dealing with this shortfall. We don't even know what it is yet. And healthcare must be addressed in that, public education and sustaining that funding, but really job growth. How are we going to grow?
Thank you so much. Well, we have time for one last philosophical question, and it's a favorite of mine. Alyssa, Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high. Do you agree?
Is this a short answer?
Well, I know it's not, but as short as we can make it.
All right. Well, that's real sweet to a point. And so it depends on the situation. Strategically, we can't sit here and be sitting ducks and turn the other cheek Democrats. We've got to scrap. We've got to be in the fight. So I'm not of that. I'm a nice person. I am. I'm a Christian. I'm all that. But in campaigning, all of us say, let's go to Austin and fight for this and fight for that and fight for this. And sometimes when you fight, you gotta get with your opponent. So, but it's really nice. Yeah. And as much as anybody can, absolutely go high.
I totally understand what you're trying to say there. I'm absolutely with you. Joanna, same question.
Well, I think the better question in our district is when they go slow, I go faster. My opponent doesn't ever walk. I got to go fast. My opponent has $1 million for TV spending. We're going to the doors and the phones and the text message. And I heard this today and I'll repeat it again. Michael Steele said, former chair of the RNC said, do you want to be woke or do you want to win? I'd like to be both, but right now I'm leaning on the latter. I'm woke enough. I'm progressive enough. I know what my values are, but folks, we have to win this seat. We have to win all of these seats to bring real change. And damn it, if I have to take that golf cart with me down I-35 and y'all catch up with me as I'm driving down there, well, I'll do it. But we need to win, folks, and that's what matters right now.
And thank you. And Natalie?
Sure. I think it was a great saying back in 2012 before we experienced Trump. And now it's almost as though, as much as I want to relate to that and go with that, I just don't think it's enough. I think, and I'm not saying we go low, but I think we fight hard. And so however we can tailor that message, I think that's what we need to do if we really want to take back the civility in this country and in this state.
I know that y'all want to answer a lot more than on all of these questions. And the next ones, we're going to get to the issues of the day. You're really going to want to go over the 1 minute, but let's try to keep to the 1 minute as much as possible, and we'll get as many questions in as possible. So if we're ready for that, Joanna, we'll start with you. The number one polling issue of the day nationwide, everywhere, is healthcare. So we want to ask the question in this way: how do you provide the most healthcare to the most Texans given our resources?
Expand Medicaid tomorrow. Do it. We need to catch up with Oklahoma and St. Louis and the rest of the damn country on this issue.
That was fast, Natalie.
I don't need a minute for that. It is expanding Medicaid. I mean, that's just a common sense thing to do. The fact that we're leaving money, going to other states, it's absolutely absurd. And if we're really caring about Texans, it's about first step. Let's expand Medicaid.
Melissa?
You want me to answer the same thing they said? I mean, you've got to expand Medicaid. I mean, I'm on Obamacare. My employees are on Obamacare. And I mean, it works, and you've got to expand Medicaid.
Easy enough.
I have to remind all of our viewers at home, please ask your questions live. Clearly, these three women are ready to go on day one, and they care about our health and our education. I have never seen three women so clearly and succinctly come together and understand that that is really the number one issue regarding that question. So make sure to donate $17. Give them 13,000 hours of your time. Don't sleep. Get them elected. Okay, next question. We will start with Natalie. This is, of course, Texas. We are passionate as a people about our guns. So I would like to know what gun reform policy looks like to you.
Sure. So I'm a gun owner. We've owned guns for years. The fact that universal backgrounds is not what's on the books is absolutely crazy. Red flag laws need to go forward. And I'm saying this as someone, it's just what we do. We go shooting range, we go hunting. And the fact that that's just not common practice, making sure that the people that are owning these guns and shooting these guns are sane individuals, are responsible individuals, needs to change. And so that's the step that I see as far as gun reform.
Thank you. Alyssa?
I agree. I've been a CHL holder for about 26 years. I carry everywhere I go. I like to shoot, go to the range. I'm from a family that has, an arsenal of weapons. We're from the country. Pflugerville used to be the country. So yeah, red flag laws, background checks. There is no reason in the world for people to carry around AK-47s, 15s, and endanger citizens. We need mental health mental health checks. There is a lot of gun reform that needs to take place in Austin and in Texas that does not require taking people's guns. You're not taking my gun.
That's right. Thank you so much. And Joanna?
So, I agree with both. We do need universal background checks. We do desperately need red flag laws. I would also add to that a statewide gun surrender policy. Only in 2 counties do we have domestic violence courts in which a judge will ask a domestic abuser if there is a gun in the household, and they don't always do it. And that's something to be said when we have these abusers in these situations that can escalate. That we need to have a way to keep people safe. Even sensible gun owners understand what this means. Even in states with Republican legislatures, they get these kinds of legislation passed. So, I think there's a lot that we can do. I would like common sense gun reform not to take a back burner this next session as well.
Thank you so much.
Alyssa, the next one goes to you. This is a big buzzword that probably defines 2020 more than any other word, social justice reform. Tell us what social justice reform is, in your opinion. Alyssa.
Yeah. So I could go on and on about this. I am the NAACP president. So I'll try to be brief. But social justice reform in Texas, criminal justice reform would be top of my list. Taking care of voter suppression tactics in Texas. There are so many. In addition to healthcare, that is a topic that falls under social justice reform, environmental justice, and I'm listing those things because those are all issues that I have fought diligently for daily as NAACP president. I could go on and on about that, but those are some issues that we've got to take a look at in the legislature, and so I see the first one.
It's tough, I know. We're only giving you 1 minute, but Joanna?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that there are so many new advocates that from the last cycle as well as this cycle who are going to be fighting on these measures of social justice reform, not just access at the polls, which we will see a real effort of voter suppression happen in November, and please keep your eyes out for that, but really dealing with what some of the underpinning issues are: poverty in its relation to criminal justice reform, poverty in its relation to addiction, poverty in relation to so many things. So I'm glad to be able to work with so many advocates. Many of us have experience with this. And so I hope this session brings that opportunity for us to talk about these issues in relation to what is actually happening in communities as well.
Sure. And those are excellent answers. And just to add on that, for me, it's just a question of, are we really listening to those that are being the most impacted? I guess I'm just sick and tired and frustrated of folks thinking that they know what's best for other people's communities, when what we should be doing is not talking so much and listening to what people have to say and how we can best represent them. So for me, once I get into Austin, it is about having that open mind, open heart, and listening to what their needs are and how I can best represent them. So that's what me as a leader would try and tackle social justice reform the best way, is by listening.
Thank you all so much. Ladies, I'm going to ask a question about education. And once I start, if I were to ask every question, there would be a million, right? What's the difference between public and charter schools? The difference between Wi-Fi access in suburban and urban areas, the Robin Hood Law, higher education access, a million things I could ask about teacher certification. So, to that end, I'm going to give you a minute, Joanna. Fix Texas education in a minute.
So, in a really quick minute, fix the funding mechanisms for all of this. So much of it has to do with that. How you get schools funded matters. And where that allocation goes really, really matters. We do not have a formal funding mechanism past 2021. HB 3 was a Band-Aid bill to keep people in office for another session. That's what it was. But it will not be renewed without us there. We must keep the promises. And I have already said this in many forums, and I'll tell both Natalie and Alyssa, I will put an apple on every member's desk in the Texas legislature on the first day. That's 150 apples. This is sometimes what you do at the beginning of the session. That is my promise to teachers and families and students in this state who have put up with so much of online education, and they're struggling right now. We have a promise to keep to these families, to these students, to these districts, to keep funding at the level we said we would keep it at. And that is my Apple promise to all of you, that we will do that.
Thank you, Natalie.
So for me, it's about, it goes to the funding. This idea that we're currently funding two different public school systems, these charter schools, and then your actual neighborhood public schools. And for me, they're not held at the same accountability level. You have folks that are setting aside money in their budget for marketing, for recruitment. When you have your neighborhood schools that are really suffering, teachers and administrators and your bus drivers and so forth that are suffering because they're not getting the proper funding that they need. So for me, it's about taking a harder stand and not allowing charter schools to pop up left and right, to really value the schools that are in our neighborhoods and the teachers that are there. And to really take a stand against that and really create alliances in the legislature that are willing to really put their foot down on charter schools, period.
Thank you. And Alyssa?
So yeah, it's time to fully fund our public education school system. That's bottom line. Both ladies detailed that quite nicely. So I'll be standing alongside of Joanna. I'll take half of her grocery sack of apples and be helping her set those out on the desk. But our teachers, our students, our staff, they deserve fully funded education. Our staff and teachers deserve a livable wage. And it's past time for that.
Good. Before I go on, remember, you in the audience, you have just a few more minutes to get your questions in. From 8 to 8:30, we're going to be asking your questions. So get those questions in. Natalie, the next question goes to you. In 2017, there was a major rain event called Hurricane Harvey that hit the east coast of Texas, devastated the area, and yet the Governor Greg Abbott, the Republican, decided not to open the rainy day fund to help out. What the heck is a rainy day fund for, if not for one of the worst rain events in all of American history?
That's a great question. And it should be for that kind of purpose. I don't think that we should dip into our rainy day fund to really fix our public education funding, for example. But when you have catastrophic events such as Harvey, and you're not utilizing those funds for that purpose to help families, restructure or basically rehabilitate their lives and get themselves a sense of normalcy, helping those the cities and the counties rebuild, then I don't know what purpose that fund serves. It's never going to be touched for things such as Harvey and these next natural disasters that are bound to hit us very soon. So that's what I would use it for, period.
Alyssa?
That what Natalie said. Plus, the rainy day funds need to be used at this point for COVID. I mean, look, this COVID has racked our state budget, and so if we don't use it for COVID, I don't get it. I'm not sure what they are there for, what the funds are there for.
And Joanna?
So the rainy day fund is essentially a savings account for the state. Unfortunately, we have a governor who just likes to save everything in there and not be accountable to the actual state he's supposed to be saving it for. The difficulty about the rainy day fund as well is its contributors include oil and gas, which was really devastated economically by a global oil and gas crisis. So, it boggles the mind, and we've all said it so much, what the governor thinks sometimes. And it boggles the mind that the Republican Party like to call itself fiscal conservatives, because it seems right now, even listening to the candidates talk, the real common sense budgeters in the state house will be the Democrats. And it's time we use that savings account to start saving Texas and hold the governor accountable for what he's not been doing enough of.
So we have time for a couple more questions, I think.
More at least, yeah. Go.
Okay, so in kind of the same vein, we talk about us being the energy corridor, right? We rely a lot on oil and gas, but we are a state rich in natural resources, solar, wind, water, everything. So how would you propose we harness that and grow the alternative energy sector within our actual energy sector that we have now? And I will start with Natalie. No, I'm sorry, Alyssa.
Okay. All right. So how do we harness
our natural resources to grow the alternative energy sector?
Texas is rich with, air energy, wind energy, and we should absolutely harness that. I'm not understanding why we do not take advantage of wind energy, for example, to power this state. It seems like our governor and leadership are opposed to. They're supposed to be the fiscal conservatives, and they don't want to use best practices that have worked in other states and implement them here in Texas.
Thank you, Joanna.
So you're right about Texas being the number one energy producer. We're the number one producer of oil and natural gas. But what Texas should pride itself on is being an energy producer. And I think what that should mean and look like is that we create small grant-funded opportunities to do that. In the Dallas area, we have green job sources that sometimes takes folks who are even former felons, and they learn the skill of how to build solar panels, and then put those panels, of course, on new homes and new buildings and et cetera. So I think we have an opportunity here to really invest in a new sector. And the number one thing we need to do, aside from dealing with COVID and public schools, is creating these new jobs. What about a great relearning opportunity for people who have lost their job in an industry the pandemic may have obliterated, let's be frank here, but the opportunity to learn these new skills, this is a way to do that. Texas should be proud of being an energy producer. We do not have to maintain that simply in oil and gas and fracking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Natalie.
Sorry, those are great answers. And just for me, it's a matter of diversifying our portfolio. We have come to realize that we can't rely solely on oil and gas, clearly. And so it's a matter of taking this opportunity, investing and incentivizing, bringing more wind and solar opportunities to our state. You have to look ahead. You have to look about how can we protect this state moving forward. And so many others have, set an excellent example. And so it's not a matter of reinventing the wheel. It's a matter of taking that step forward and doing it. And so, I just think it's a matter of prioritizing about the diversification of our portfolio as a state.
Joanna, I'm gonna push this one. I'm just gonna give you 20 seconds to answer, all three of you, on this one, and it's a quick one. The distance between Washington D.C. and New York City is about the same distance as Houston to Dallas, and yet they've got a really nice, robust corridor of trains. Why do we not have high-speed rail in Texas yet? And what are we doing about that? Joanna, go ahead.
So one of the things we think we need to do is make sure that we have high-speed rail and fund the efforts to do that. The fact of the matter is we've had the same transportation options for decades now. We need to join the 21st century, Texas, and do it now.
Natalie?
For me, it's just a matter of who's paying what to stop it from happening. It's these lobbyists that have a louder voice than everyday folks do, and they're lining the pockets, and that's why things aren't getting done. So stopping that.
Alyssa?
Makes no sense to me. Every time I'm on the Hill or in New York, I don't get it. But when you look at Arlington, Texas, we don't have public transportation here, so it's an interesting issue, and I happen to agree with what Nat just espoused. Who's not getting paid? Whose pockets aren't getting lined? So.
That's right. Thank you, ladies. We're reaching the end of this first hour, so we're going to give you each a minute to talk about your particular district and any issues that maybe we haven't covered, or you can talk about something that's fantastic about your district that you want our viewers to know. But before we do that, I want to remind all of our viewers that I need your questions in the comments so that we can ask your questions to these candidates. You are who is important. We want to get your voice heard by these representatives who are trying to get elected to represent you. Also, donate $17, $1,700, $17,000 to each of these candidates, and make sure to go to their websites that you'll see across the bottom of your screen throughout the rest of the evening. Donate an hour of your time to phone bank or text bank or write postcards. Make sure that you make your plan to vote. Early voting starts October 13th and election day is November 3rd, and it is fast approaching. Make sure you tell 5, 10, 15, 20 friends and family members to go vote for these incredibly impressive women who are committed to democracy, equality, and justice. We will start our 1 minute with Natalie. Go ahead.
Sure. So about this district, let's see. So this was a district, as I said before, Republican stronghold. It was majority Anglo. We're now in a district that is minority majority, with Latinos being number one, followed by African Americans and Asian Americans. It is a district that, I absolutely love. It's the reason why I moved out here to begin with, because of my girls and raising them in a place that, I felt was safe, with great public schools. And I just love it, the neighborhood and so forth. And let's see, what else is there to know about this district? This district is one that is going to flip come November. We're putting in the work. We're putting in everything that we need to do. Getting our message out there. And this is also a district in which a poll has showed us at a dead heat with my opponent, 47-47. And what pushes us ahead is our message and telling my story. And so it's just an honor to be here today. And I hope one day that y'all come and visit this district. I take you out for lunch. I'm not above, taking y'all to Whataburger or Lunitas or wherever, but that's what I have to say about House District 126.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And now a minute from our other wonderful candidate, Alyssa Simmons.
Okay. Texas House District 94 has been a Republican stronghold for decades, upon decades. So we've had some good Democratic candidates step up to take on the Republicans in this district, and it's grown. The margin has grown closer and closer and closer each year, each cycle. So we fully intend to flip this district this time. We are our super volunteers are out getting our message out. We are able to reach more people because I have a tremendous amount of support, need more support, financial support to get our message out. So the district is 60% Anglo white, and that has changed. The demographics have changed. Folks have moved in from all different cultures and communities, so that gives us hope as well that we have a more diverse community.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. And Joanna Cadnack, 1 minute to you.
So this district, House District 108, represents all the iconic images you can think of Dallas. This is home to the Reunion Tower, our beautiful buildings in downtown Dallas. It's a district historically that actually went to Mitt Romney and now is trending 23% to Joe Biden. That's how strongly we've changed. It's a district that I'm proud to live in. I moved my family here. I'm raising my family here, but something that you will be very proud of. It is home to the American Airlines Center, which is home to the Dallas Stars that are in the Stanley Cup playoff right now. So shout out to the Stars and the Mavericks. The American Airlines Center will be a voting location on Election Day, as will all NBA centers. So yay, lots to celebrate here in 108.
Oh, that's fantastic, Joanna. I work in anime voice acting and once did an anime convention at that exact center. It's a fantastic place. Remember, viewers, we want you to donate $17, $1,700, $17,000 to these wonderful candidates to get them elected to the State House so that we can go see them in 2021 in Austin. Make sure to sign up on their websites for your opportunities to phone bank, text bank, write postcards, do lit drops, tell your friends, all that great stuff. And now I believe we are moving.
Now we're ready for the audience questions. So audience, you've been the last hour sending us a lot of questions. Keep sending those questions. Even if we run out of time to ask all the questions, sometimes these candidates like to go on afterwards on Facebook and some of the other channels and answer those questions. So just keep those questions coming. Candidates, unfortunately, you only get 30 seconds to answer these questions. And I can guarantee you from past experience, some of these questions, you're going to want to have a semester's course to teach these answers, but you have 30 seconds. So this is where we're at. And the last person that spoke was Joanna, I believe. So Alyssa, if you're up next, this one actually goes back to the Rainy Day Fund for a second. The audience member wants to know if we should be auditing that Rainy Day Fund to find out what's going on with it right now.
Absolutely. Yes.
Joanna?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to put your activism to work, start crunching those numbers in the Texas budget.
That's true.
Natalie?
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Easy peasy.
Joanna, this question is actually from one of your fellow candidates, Elizabeth Hernandez. She's running for Congress, and she asks you all, what suggestions do you have to address the homeless problem in Texas?
So this is an interesting one for Dallas because we actually are pioneering something. It announced last week. It's based off a program in Harris County, and it's really using the county resources, police resources, district attorney's resources to deal with homelessness in a different way. You cannot police homelessness, which is often addiction more than anything else. And it is an effort in our county based off what Harris County is doing to really provide a new way to get people out of homelessness, get them the treatment and addiction and diversion that they really need. There is no purpose of people sitting in a county jail cell when they really need addiction help.
Thank you so much. Natalie?
Right. And it's on the same kind of token, honestly, it's about making sure that we're properly funding mental health programs. A lot of folks that are out there, it is about, their mental stability and just fixing that and not thinking that they're automatically a criminal just because they're out there. So I think that's the approach that needs to be taken.
Thank you. And Alyssa?
I agree. Funny or interesting, I had a call today from someone who I get called for everything. And they had an encounter with a homeless man in Arlington and said, how do I report this incident? And I said, if you report it, then he's jailed. He doesn't need to be jailed. He needs to go to a mental health treatment facility. So be careful when you do that. And so we have to have those systems set up in all cities. And it would be nice if it were a state program. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Natalie, so tell us where you stand on the minimum wage. Where should it be, and how do we get there?
Sure. So having been a server for so many years and earning that $2 and I think it was like 14 cents an hour, and hoping and praying to get the best section to make it worth my night of being away from my daughter, minimum wage needs to be a livable wage. I mean, for God's sakes, the fact that, you know, I'm thinking $15 an hour is what I've heard after conversation with everyday folks that are just trying to earn enough money to pay their bills, pay their groceries, and take care of their family. So my stance is at the very minimum, let's start at $15 an hour, and then we can move from that point.
Alyssa?
$15 an hour is a good start. But think about families, and I'm not opposed to $18, $20 an hour, but $15 an hour is a good start.
Joanna?
You know, I agree with everybody. $15 an hour is a good start. How we pay for that is a difficult one and a tough budget cycle that we will have. But one thing we need to be able to make sure is that as state representatives, we make sure state employees are receiving that wage. We have the opportunity to do at least that. And that is something that we should be looking at and trying to do ourselves.
Alyssa, not everybody knows this across our nation, but our legislature meets only once every 2 years. So do you think we should meet that not often, or should we meet more? Should your legislature meet more? Why or why not?
I think the legislature should meet more often because the work of managing and governing this state is nonstop. And so meeting for 5, maybe 6 months a year, every 2 years, it just doesn't quite cut it for me. So there's work to be done. And if we're elected, we need to be doing that work. And we need to be doing it together and in Austin.
Thank you. And Joanna?
Yes, we should be meeting more than once every other year. I think the state's calendar is still based off 1860s Reconstruction era. That's how old it is. Keep in mind, it's what happens when we're not there. It means that the governor has a unilateral power to do whatever he wants. It means the TEA commissioner can make decisions without us in the room. It means that the big three, Dan Patrick, Dennis Bonnen, and the governor are making decisions on how we reopen the state with none of your elected officials there because they can do it and we're not in session. That's why we need to meet more often. And I hope we could do something smart and create a regional effort and utilize these services here and not simply call us to drive back down to Austin. We have the opportunity to do this virtually.
Thank you, Natalie.
And
Yeah, so sorry, you can go. Jaime?
no, go.
Okay, so for me, it's a matter of, you know, looking at the budget. You know, my day job, we have to create a budget every year. I can't imagine projecting a budget that's supposed to cover 2 years. And then you look at this, for example, going through this pandemic, no one in hell would have ever foreseen this to happen. So, you know, just for that alone, I think it's necessary that you meet more often so that way you're making calculations that make sense because you're not trying to predict what's going to happen 2 years from now. So that alone is a reason why I think we need to meet more often.
Very fair and succinct.
I want to point out to the audience members, because there's a lot of people from out of the state that are watching this show tonight, the way that it works, when you get elected in November of this year, in January, you're going to take office and you'll have 140 days to be a active legislator. In other words, someone who's voting on things. If the governor wants to, he can bring back special sessions of up to 30 days each time, but that's only if he wants to. And so otherwise, you're basically doing this entire election cycle, getting elected in November for 140 days from January to May. And then after that, you have 2 years where you're doing nothing but getting ready to run again. Now, you have constituent services and things like that you can do at home, but what they're pointing out is that you're not in Austin doing things. You're not voting on things. There's nothing to vote on. There is no legislator happening. And so a lot of states don't work that way. And it's weird that a state like Texas, that is so big, that's bigger than the government of Germany, for example, doesn't have active full-time. And the other thing that happens because of that is that you actually have certain types of people who cannot ever run for this office, for State House Rep, because they don't have the kind of job that would allow them to leave for 140 days, but only 140 days every other year. That's a very strange type of employer that would let you do that. And so you end up getting a lot of disproportionate amount of lawyers who have their own law firms and people that are cobbling it together, making it on their own. Maybe they have a family that helps them out, but for the most part, there are a lot of people that just cannot make this a profession. So, and when you hear people say, "Oh, well, we don't want our politicians to be professionals," well, sometimes you get exactly what you just asked for. So,
Exactly.
If you want professionals there, then that's probably what you're getting sometimes.
And I just want to add, because it also isn't because of the money, because I think, what is it, 7,200? I mean, so not only, is your job, hopefully your job will allow you to go out there, on these odd, times and whatever, but then you're not even getting paid enough. So there's no way in hell that you can support your family. So everyday people that want to be advocates for everyday people are not even able to do it just because of what the pure facts are. So sorry, I just thought I'd add that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, along those lines, then let's just ask another kind of follow-up question on that. And that's simply, what can we do about changing this? Is this what we want to be doing? I know that it's not the first thing on our minds, but maybe it's time for the times to change in Texas. And I forget actually now who we ended up with. Do y'all remember? Was it Natalie that spoke last? So Joanna, you're up.
I'll just go.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Yes, the time is now to change. If we keep on saying we need to change things. Now is the time. If not now, then when? And so, you have so many women that are running for office. You have so many moms, for example, that are running for office. And I think that the only way that we're going to get things to change are having people like us that, live everyday lives. We're not, I'm not a lawyer, just, everyday kind of job. And the only way we can get policies pushed forward that help our, everyday Texans and folks is by having people like, Joanna, myself, and Elisa up there putting forth those kind of policies. So yes, the time is now. If not, when?
Alyssa?
Yes, I agree. The time is now. You, Jaime, laid it out eloquently. You explained it to everybody. This is antiquated. It's just backwards. It's 2020, for goodness sake. And a lot of the structure needs to change. You're right. Only lawyers and business owners can run for these seats. And some business owners can't. It's been a tough campaign season for me because I was affected by COVID, just like other small businesses. So, people who have a heart for doing this type of work ought to be able to serve. And it's time that it's changed so that we can serve and we can raise our families and take care of our homes.
Joanna?
Yeah, like everyone said, it's time to change. It's time for change. We are the change makers to make that happen, but it's time that we send a message to the governor's office as well. On November 3rd, we need to deliver a devastating blow to the state of Texas. He will not change. We need to keep that in mind. He will not change. The lieutenant governor will not change. They will change the rules to benefit them, which is what he has already done in the Senate. Yeah. We have to win in November. We have to send a message to the governor, and then we need to take that governor's mansion as soon as we can to make anything change. And I think that Democrats need to walk in with that in mind. Get legislation passed, but we need to get them out.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you one last secret before I let Carly go on. And I don't mean to step on you, Carly, but there's one last secret I think a lot of people don't realize. And one of the reasons why lawyers get the best out of this whole session is if you're an attorney and you're on a case, a judge has to delay your case if you're in session. If you're in the state legislature at that moment, the judge has to delay your case. So what a lot of the big law firms will do is they'll hire these state reps and put them on their name on the case. And that way they can delay, and everybody knows that justice delayed is justice denied. People that can't afford for those delays to occur, they get the short end of the stick. So I don't know if that's a secret that y'all knew, or if that's an open secret, but that's actually one of the biggest things, the biggest problems that happens is that your fellow state legislatures are milking the system. And they get paid a lot of money to work for these big law firms, and it's a lot of the Republicans that are doing it. They get paid a lot, but some Democrats do it too. I'm not going to, play favorites there, but they get paid a lot of money to have their name on a paper. So anyway,
So I did not know that. That's interesting.
That's my little soapbox for you all to know. New lessons for you to know. Carly, let's get back to the audience questions.
Yes, let's get back to what matters, our viewers and our voters, the people that we're trying to get to the polls voting for these amazingly accomplished and amazing women that I know are on the side of justice and equality. Make sure you donate $17 to each campaign and give them at least an hour of your time every week. We desperately need your help to get them to the State House. Our next question from the audience is, it's obvious that the Republicans like to throw up roadblocks to limit voter participation, as we all see every day. What would you propose to ensure everyone in Texas has the access and the right to vote? And I will start with Joanna on this one.
I propose that we actually take advantage of the laws that we already have on the books. Let me give you an example of that. Motor voter laws that are supposed to allow someone who automatically renews their driver's license to automatically, online even, renew their voter registration card. Guess what's still not happening in the state of Texas? My renewal notice came in the mail 2 weeks ago, and what arrived? A paper voter registration card. That is not how the law is right now. Right now.
That's right.
That would be a great start if we just applied the good legislation we've already passed, and I'll let the ladies talk about the other things we can do. But hey, there's a place to start right now.
Thank you, Natalie.
So for me, it's, how about online voter registration? Why the hell can't we just do this online like we do everything else? If we're able to pay our bills online, for God's sakes, we should be able to register online like that.
That's right. Absolutely. Alyssa.
Same thing they both said. Plus, I would not be opposed to making Election Day, especially general election, a holiday.
Yes, ma'am. I will say that I am very appreciative of the state for allowing us extra time to early vote. Don't forget, early voting begins October 13th this time and November 3rd, but it's because we are in a pandemic and have poor leadership that we've had to extend this time. Make sure you get out and vote early, make your plan to vote. Jaime, next question.
Yeah, I'm going to push back real quick before I get to the next question, and that is, why do we have to do something called registering to vote? Voting is an American right. The only reason that registering for voting ever occurred was to create a poll tax. It was a racist thing that started. It should be gone. There should be automatic voter registration from the start. We shouldn't spend any time trying to register anybody to vote. We are Americans. We should be able to vote. But that's a soapbox. If you want to comment.
I like that. Yes, that's great. It makes sense.
Okay. So let's go to the next audience question. The next audience question says that at the age of 22, although someone may not be developmentally the age of 22, they are graduated from high school at that point. And so the services from the government dry up at that point, education services especially. How do we deal with that situation? And I think it it Joanna next?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember actually now.
We started with Joanna last time, so Natalie would start.
Natalie. Thank you, Carly.
Sure.
So honestly, I don't know the answer to that. For me, it's just a matter of, it has to be, you can't just kind of lump everyone into one group. I think it's a matter of, and I want to say case by case basis, because that to me is a barrier right there. I think it's a matter of just taking a step back and seeing if what's in place is working, which clearly it's not for a lot of families, and just and working that. I don't have the perfect answer for that, and I don't want to BS my way out of it. So I would have to just try and get as much information as possible and take as many recommendations on what they feel would be the best approach.
My question would be, what does the the disabilities industry or arena say about that? What does the data show? Does it show that 26 should be the age, or 36? What does the data show? And so that's what I would be interested in seeing.
Joanna?
Yeah, so I mean, like Natalie said, I'm less familiar with this issue, just like everybody else. But I know that the people who are having to deal with this sudden loss of benefits, it can be devastating and very difficult to figure out what do you do after the fact. What services are there available? What benefits are there available with a state like Texas that still does not have Medicaid expansion, which is a huge issue still that we're going to harp on all the time. But I really do think it's about listening to advocates who are passionate about these issues. What solutions do you have? Because we cannot know everything, but we do need people to tell us what's happening in the community, and know that you have people who are listening. I myself was a Medicaid recipient. At the age of 18, I lost those benefits. And for years, Obamacare did not exist. I had no health insurance until the age of 26. I know what it means to not have benefits and how frightening that can be. But if you have an adult child with special needs or disability services that are needed, you need care right now. So please know that we need you to be advocates for us, ears on the ground. Tell us what can work. Give us your solutions, because we're there to fight for you and to say this is the ideas that work, and they can come from anyone, not just us.
And that question actually comes from the Texas Disabilities Caucus. So I'd urge you to go online later and look at it, because they've got good resources.
Alyssa, this question actually comes from another one of our fabulous candidates. This one is Michelle Palmer, and she is running for the State Board of Education, place 6. And we are big fans of Michelle Palmer, and this is an important issue to her specifically, but for many of us Texans. Would you be willing to sponsor a bill that would get rid of the no promo homo law? This law makes it so that teachers cannot discuss LGBTQIA issues without discussing the risks of that lifestyle.
Oh my God.
Yes,
Sorry.
my God. But Elizabeth first.
So what's the question?
The question is, there is a law on the books for the
right. What's the question?
Would you be willing to pass a bill or to be part of a bill that would ensure that you could discuss LGBTQIA issues without implying that it's a risky lifestyle, because they are clearly just humans?
Yeah.
Thank you. Joanna, same question.
Yes, I mean, most of us are endorsed by Equality Texas as well. We know that there are people that are looking at the syllabuses of teachers in the area, looking for this type of stuff to narrow in on. We need to be able to write this kind of legislation that's smart, and we need to please elect great State Board of Education members, please, so that we can get things done. I'm proud that Aisha Davis is one of the ones in the Dallas County area, newly elected, a terrific advocate, but not all of them are. So please, yes, happy to write that type of legislation any day.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, so clearly my oh my God means yes, let's pass. I mean, it's disgusting. That's exactly what it is. That's even on the books. And she's right, Joanna's right. We need to get people like Michelle elected so that we can just stop this hate. That's what it is to me. It's absolute hate. And you're right. These are everyday people. I mean, that angers me. So yes, I would pass that 100%.
21st century.
Exactly. Come on.
Y'all means all. Isn't that our saying?
Yep.
Y'all means all.
So let's push through real fast and get a couple more questions in before we wrap it up. Joanna, this one goes to you. Let's talk about food deserts for a second. And how do we manage or handle food deserts, whether they be in urban settings or in suburban settings?
So I'm privileged to have talked with Anja Sanders, who's someone who's fighting for the Oak Cliff community and the Dallas County area. She's a real advocate for ending these food deserts, for providing vegetables and sources so that people can get them. I think what we can do as state representatives is really provide the funding and resources to do these types of things. This may be putting vegetables and fruit on buses, but if you're in places like Arlington with no transportation, it's hard to get to a grocery store. But if you're in places like Dallas where there is a bus, it's just going to take you an hour and a half to get to the decent Central Market. I mean, we really have to talk about funding here. People need good food to eat to stay healthy, and I am about Texas healthy families.
Natalie?
Yeah. And so for me, it is also about funding. So my day job, I work with the management district in a food desert in the Alief area. And what we brought to that community was a community garden. And what we thought was originally going to be just 12 beds has, grown to 73 beds. And the only way that this could happen was because we have a management district in place created by the state legislature that we're able to itemize in our budget for that project alone. And so many families are benefiting from that. So many kids are getting to know that you don't just go to a grocery store and this is just how it comes, about the process of where they come. So I'll stop. But yes, I'm all for that.
Alyssa?
Mute.
You're on mute, Alyssa.
2020.
So, and my house phone keeps ringing for some reason. I never answer it. Speaking of 2020, there should not be food deserts, but there are. And particularly in Arlington, public transportation is key. Plus, we've got to ensure that there are supermarkets that are not price gouging, that have healthy fruits, vegetables, food in neighborhoods that deserve to have supermarkets there. They don't have to travel miles and miles to get to a grocery store. So, yes, I mirror what the other two candidates have said.
Thank y'all so much. We'll just do one last question before we get to no more questions, I may say. Candidates, there are questions throughout our live comments. I highly encourage you to take the time to go look at them and answer them yourselves. It means a lot to our viewers and to your voters to have that personal connection. I know personally. So please do that. We want to thank everybody for your time tonight. Make sure that you go and donate to every single one of these incredibly impressive women and get them to the State House so that we can do another one of these with them at the next session once they're all elected, and we can do a whole Blue Outpost Texas forum. And we would like to give them the opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement. So we will go in reverse order from what we started. Natalie Hurtado, HD 126.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight and getting to know me just a little bit better, getting to know my race a little bit better. I encourage you to visit my website, Natalie for Texas, and that's Natalie without the E because that's special. And just sign up for, phone banking, sign up for texting. If there's any questions that you have, shoot me an email, send me a text. Doesn't matter. I answer everything personally because this is how much it means to me. I'm coming at this as a mother, as a Texan, as a Houstonian, and it would be my honor to serve y'all in Austin. So thank you so much once again for allowing me to speak with you tonight. And I hope that I make you proud come November.
Thank you so much. And Joanna Kadnak from HD 108.
Well, thank you all so much for having me. We are so excited to be able to finish what we started in House District 108. I am so glad to be able to be in this fight with so many amazing people. I think so much is on the line right now, and I can't think of a better place to have the fight of a lifetime than in Texas, and I can't think of better people to lead that than strong and fiery and experienced Texas women. We are small business owners, we are lawyers, we are educators like myself, we are former foster care children like myself, we are Latino, we are African American, we are your neighbors, and we are ready to fight for you. So please, everything you've got, bring it for the next few days. We work nonstop in this campaign. I am so tired at this point, and I will sleep on November 4th. We have to win. If we can't do it for ourselves, do it for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She held on till she couldn't anymore, and we deserve to honor all of the women, all of the people who came before us to push our district just an inch further, and it's our job to carry the torch and carry it all the way across the finish line. Please visit our website, joannafortexas.com. And if you're in the East Dallas area, starting next Saturday, we'll have our yard signs available and these fun little creatures. pumpkins. We're giving them away to people in the area so that they can celebrate our campaign with us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That was great. And last but certainly not least, Alyssa Simmons for Texas HD 94.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here tonight. It was fun being with Joanna and Natalie. House District 94, it's going to be tough. But what you have is a tough candidate. I am fearless. You want me in that seat. All you have to do is look at my background, work. You can Google me. I have a heart for the people, all people, and I am ready to go to Austin and take care of you. We do need volunteers for phone banking. If you are here local, block walking, we are knocking on doors, and we're literature dropping, but we're also knocking on doors. I'll be knocking on doors. And so the volunteers that are comfortable with doing so can do that, or they can just drop lit at the door and keep it pushing. We have got to get elected. We've got to take House District 94 back. My opponent is worse than Trump. So go Google him as well. So I would appreciate your support, volunteerism, financial support, anything you've got, we'll take it. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. It was a great night. And audience, come back Tuesday night. Of course, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday between now and Election Day, we're going to be doing these at 7 o'clock. There's a lot of other candidates for us to be talking to in the future. This Tuesday night, we have a special series for you. We have some elected officials that you know and love. They're going to be here, dropping in and out throughout the evening. So stay tuned for that. Carly, any last words?
Just join us on Tuesday with Symphonia Thompson, Sheila Jackson Lee, Senator Royce West. It's going to be a fantastic night. Give these ladies $17 or $17,000. I have never been more impressed than I have this year by all of these amazing candidates. We need to get them to the State House. Vote, vote, vote. Give time, give money, and then go vote. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all very much.
Bye. Thank you.